I believe that in the minds of those who are responsible for carrying forth the reform, that they saw it as being important to the extent to have persons from CARICOM and other places. This evening we are very happy to have with us His Excellency Colin Granderson, Assistant Secretary General of CARICOM with responsible for Foreign and Community Affairs. His Excellency Ambassador Granderson is here representing the Secretary General of CARICOM. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to present to you Ambassador Granderson.
Mr. Master of Ceremonies, Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Premier of Nevis, distinguished members of the head table, members of the government, members of the Nevis Assembly, Honorable Leader of the Opposition of St. Kitts and Nevis, members of the Diplomatic Corps and of international organizations, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, good afternoon to you all. The CARICOM Secretariat is honored to have been invited to be part of this momentous, and as some of the preceding speakers have said, this historic public event, the official launch of the St. Kitts and Nevis Electoral Reform Exercise, which brings together the government, the leaders of the political parties, civil society, and other stakeholders of the Federation. This exercise is based on a white paper tabled in the National Assembly, and it delineates the structures and mechanisms of this important process. The CARICOM region has a long and proud record with regard to democratic governance, though it is true we have had our moments of dissonance. Our attachment to good governance and the rule of law is enshrined in the CARICOM Charter of Civil Society, which represents the normative moorings of the community. Efforts are underway at the moment to give what could be called perhaps muscles to this charter. Fundamental to the expression of democratic governance is the exercise of free, fair, and transparent electoral processes. As our societies progress and mature, our various processes of governance must also evolve so as to take into account the profound social and technological changes which are taking place and which are reshaping our societies as well as their outlooks, their aspirations, and their expectations. The last occasions on which reforms were made to the electoral system in St. Kitts and Nevis took place in 1983 and 1984, when continuous voter registration was introduced, changes made to the electoral boundaries, and new residency requirements put in place. Serious concerns were raised over the removal of residency requirements, as well as over other issues. When one takes into account the passage of time and the resulting evolution and progress of a society, as well as the concerns raised with regard to fundamental aspects of the electoral process, such as the voters' list, it was increasingly clear that a process of change, that reform was required. The presence of observation missions of the Commonwealth invited to monitor the elections in 1993, 95, and 2004, and their reports and recommendations of 2004 in particular, and of the assessment mission of 2005, also acted as a catalyst in underlining the need and to give impetus to the need to modernize and reform the electoral process. In this regard, a modern registration system, proper identification, and a review of electoral boundaries will be critical aspects. The process of reform which is being launched today in St. Kitts and Nevis is highly commendable. I am sure that other member states of the Caribbean community will be able to learn from your experience as they also seek to modernize their electoral processes in response to the demands and expectations of their citizens for greater credibility, transparency, efficiency, and accountability in ensuring that all eligible voters exercise their will in the selection of the government of their choice. In concluding, I wish to simply underline the obvious. For any reform to meet its goals and to be successful, widespread consultation of all the stakeholders will be of critical importance. Not just consultation for the sake of consultation, but a process which will ensure that the inputs of all are taken on board in order to ensure the widest base of support is achieved and that the reform exercise is perceived by the electorate and by all the stakeholders as having been successful. I am encouraged by what I just heard by the chairman of the Electoral Reform Consultative Committee as concerns the scope and nature of the consultative process, which will seek to be all-embracing, including your diaspora, and impartial. It will also have recourse to the modern techniques of communication, which obviously will give it a much wider outreach with regard to the concerns, issues, recommendations, inputs of all the stakeholders of the society. On behalf of the Secretary General of CARICOM, who could not be present and who would have liked to be here for this historic event, I have the great pleasure to wish you a productive and successful reform exercise. Thank you.